classic servers for MMOs are good, but at the same time they are not good, and I will more talk about it in today's video. But first of all, we're gonna have a look at why Season of Mastery is only the beginning by Will E. And yeah, I'm really curious on what he has to say, because I have like my own thoughts on those different classic WoWs we have been getting, because they seem to be actually killing each other.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Will here. With Season of Mastery well underway, I wanted to take a look at why this is only the beginning for seasonals and what the future could potentially hold, because World of Warcraft Classic is far from the first MMO to take a seasonal approach to a game. In fact, it feels as though more and more that MMOs would either benefit or seek to explore this avenue for the future.
They're doing it to like either resell a game or to get like new players into something. That's why they're doing it.
To keep the experience fresh instead.
Like, there's a business model behind that, why this happens. I mean, just look at freaking Skyrim, how many remastered versions there are, and why are the MMOs like companies making seasons? Because they want to get like all subscribers back and all players back. Like, there's definitely a business idea behind this. Like, otherwise they would not make those seasons. Because they feel like, oh, if we make seasons, we do this and that, we're gonna bring back old players and maybe even like a few new ones in.
May not particularly like it, but it appears to be a format that has proven to work across the genre as a whole when it's been employed. As simply put, fresh starts are fun, a new economy, players everywhere, almost too many in my current experience of trying
but just a temporary hype, sadly.
Popular. It's just a good time to pick up and play the game, and encapsulates what the MMORPG is all about. And you know what, with World of Warcraft, I don't care that it's a 17-year-old game I'm having fun on. I think it's that many years now. I wouldn't care if it were 20
it's nostalgic.
or 30. You know what, the next time I hear somebody listening to the Beatles, I'm going to go up to them and say, imagining they're listening to a 70-year-old band, as if the enjoyment had some kind of time cap on it. Anyways, the point is, seasonal gives you a backdrop of the game you remember, with hopefully enough of a twist to make it interesting and engaging. Now, when it comes to World of Warcraft, I feel like this is something that has to be said, unfortunately, is you often find people online who are extremely jaded with the franchise, who have been on private servers for literal years and have cleared the content from Fresh in Elwyn Forest to the end of Nax beating KT 5 times over. I'd be more surprised if you were not burnt out beyond all belief on the game.
But it's also the challenge, how do you hype old school players that have been done everything?
And it will go, and if you don't like it...
Like, that's the thing, if you like get old school players back into something and whatever you offer them is way too similar to what they have experienced, like, you can also get burnt out by that. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm this kind of person, but if I do something over and over and over again, or I watch a movie 5 times in a row, like the 5th time I watch that movie, I get like almost burnt out. I'm like, oh, do I have to watch this again? And usually if I watch a movie a 5th time or so, it's not by my own choice. It's because I'm with someone that hasn't seen the movie and I should watch this movie with them or something, like if I have visitors or something like that, right? So I feel like if you reroll stuff all over again, like you're not gonna keep people engaged. You do need to bring new stuff. And then the thing with like classic servers, if you bring new stuff, is it actually still classic then? That's another thing, right?
Don't play it. Myself, I've never been invested in private server scenes for WoW or any other game for that matter. So Season of Mastery following the launch of Classic is technically my first go at a fresh, and even for a fresh it has been comparatively extremely casual. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a new server release in an MMO with a more casual reception than this. On November 20th,
is it casual
a
friendly?
Chinese guild landed the first clear on Onyxia, and Ragnaros is yet to fall as of doing this video. I bet that will be soon to change though. It's not entirely down to the difficulty though.
You know what pisses me off about this? Like, each time I go on, let's say, Radar.io or something, and I want to look at like progress of like, let's say, Chinese guilds or Chinese players, this is not available in your country and stuff like that. Like why is there a game that we all in this whole world play together and there's like a separation? You can't even look at their leaderboards or their characters or whatever. I think that's so stupid. Like, why they even have that censorship? I think it's so dumb. We live in 2021, right?
Not entirely down to the difficulty though, right? This isn't some mythic
go with
level
the times.
insanity you see in the world first race for retail. It's just, well, this is the 3rd time Ragnaros has been a world first target. officially, in Blizzard's eyes that is, and a lot of the mega hardcore guilds on Classic had already played through the content cycle several times over, and it's just being unwilling to go that hard on it again, and just aren't playing, or, you know, being casual, like a lot of the player base is. I think now we've taken on the fully seasonal route, this is kind of the final nail in the coffin for any possibility of a fully fledged Classic Plus, that being taking World of Warcraft going forwards in a horizontal progression path and not a vertical one. As in, instead of us laying an expansion on top of the game every 2 years, instead we just keep going to the side and adding new patches, maybe new abilities to the classes.
But is that enough to keep it hyped?
New zones to fill out the ones that were eventually used in
it's lack of content still, right?
Twilight Highlands and Uldum, and so on and so forth. Because unlike seasonals, those would take a lot more time to develop, whereas with the season, there are a bunch of changes made at the start, and then it's kind of off we go. At best, each season would be a bit of a different variation on something that maybe could have made its way into Classic Plus one way or another. So even though it's early on into Seasonal Mastery and Classic being seasonal, what makes me so confident this is only the start? Well, this is why. I've mentioned it a number of times before on the channel.
Yep,
but
that with the phases. Hey, let's not give you the whole cake, let's give you like just a few crumbs or like maybe a piece of the cake, right? And then let's give them piece by piece. And that's also a little bit behind the business model, like I mentioned earlier, because if you give like a little to someone and then you say, hey, in a few months you get a little more, people, if they are subscribed, they will stay subscribed because they want to see what will be in phase 2, phase 3. And if they push out all at once, of course, it wouldn't make sense from a business perspective. But now here's an issue, and I mentioned this earlier. And yeah, by the way, guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget, hit that subscribe button. So the issue with like Classic servers, or in general with like all the WoW's Classic we are having, like I played a lot of TBC Classic. I made like multiple characters on Horde and Alliance side. I joined several guilds. And now we're having the issue that, because now there's also Season of Mastery and all that, like more and more people leave. Like all the guilds that I check in and I say, hey guys, how's everyone? I see like 3, 4 people, 5 people online at a time. And there used to be like 30 plus online at a time and even more. And like servers are dying out. I even see like players that just transferred servers on Classic, like TBC Classic. And they said they had to move to our server because the issue is, like their server died out. So many people quit or they moved over or to like Season of Mastery and stuff. And I had like certain goals I wanted to reach in TBC. And now I no longer have a desire to even go towards those goals, because I feel like not so motivated, because I know each several months or year or two there will be a new Classic WoW, and I can just throw away my progress, my character attachment and all that kind of stuff, because I know there will be a new WoW Classic. Then what did I do in TBC? It was a good year or something like that, right? And then, okay, goodbye TBC, goodbye old friends, goodbye guild. I'm going back to freaking retail, or I'm going now to Season of Mastery. And now Season of Mastery, you grind up your character, you gear up, and what happens then? Like a year later, we get maybe freaking Wrath of the Lich King Classic or something, and then people are just gonna like ditch their guilds. Like they're just gonna leave, like, hey, sorry guys, I'm no longer going to be raiding with you, or we're no longer gonna, I don't know, RP together, whatever, because I'm freaking moving to Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Like, I don't know if it's good to have like having one Classic, okay, no problem. But if you have like multiple Classics, you're just pushing players around from one to one, and you're just gonna have like very, very many bubbles, and those bubbles are not big. Like so many different communities for one game. That's weird. Should be one whole community is better. It's healthier.
Last year picked up Holly Longdale from Everquest, where she had been for over a decade, and that game had moved towards TLP, or Timelock progression servers, and had steadily been releasing them year after year. I'm expecting many of the lessons that have been learned there to be taken into Classic moving forwards, as there is somebody at the helm who's been doing this for a very long time. So I thought it might be interesting to take a look at some of the ways which Everquest and other games have integrated new servers and seasonal modes as time has gone on. What kind of mechanics have they done? How could that be associated with World of Warcraft seasons in the future? Let's look at a few implementations from Everquest. They have what is a randomized loot progression server. It's a server where loot has been randomized, surprise, across rares and raids. Rares are also more likely to spawn. Rares in Classic are not too exciting, to be honest. Majority of the time I find they drop a green that rolls poor stats, but at least this is something guaranteed.
The items are not worth it.
Are certainly rare. Imagine loot randomized in raids across the same
in
tier,
raids it's a
however,
bit better because you have more mounts you can get from rares, right?
Then again, you could do a molten core and get 3 onslaught girdles, 2 mage blades, and hey, even maybe a few heads of Onyxia. Why not? It's all gear from the same tier, right? Then again, you could get more than 1 vendor strike per raid. Next up, they have what is a true box progression server. This is a server where each player will only be able to play 1 Everquest account from their computer at a time. We want to encourage players to play with friends on this server, not just form a group with their alts. So, important distinction here, Everquest is free to play, World of Warcraft is not. On private servers for WoW, multi-boxing is very frequently disallowed and a bannable offense, even to the point where if you can be proven to have a second account at all, you could be banned, with some servers allowing you to have a second account for banking, buying, just sitting on the auction house basically. And this was the case long before Blizzard took action to make use of software or hardware solutions bannable as well, simply because private servers are free. Everquest is free, meaning one guy could totally run people off the server, lock down farming spots, and there's not much you can do about it as a singular player. I imagine.
But that's also the thing with like free-to-play games. Like I don't know if Lost Ark will be like that, but like once you get into free-to-play games, there's always a catch. I mean, just look at freaking Genshin Impact, but then again, that's a gacha game. That's like a whole different thing. But if you have like freaking free-to-play games, like the company will look for like other ways to freaking monetize the game. They're gonna add crazy many microtransactions. They're gonna offer you, if you want to a second character or whatever, you have to pay or something. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I feel like, even though some people really love free-to-play games, I feel like sometimes free-to-play games will lead to like even more waste of money as a player. Because you're then suddenly stuck in the game. You have like all those people that freaking go for microtransactions. They get all those cool thingies, those cool mounts. They maybe start like leveling a new character and they get those like boosts and stuff like that. And then you feel like you want to be part of the community, but to be part of it, you have to follow the others or something. So I don't know how I should feel about free-to-play games, because they always have a catch as well. And that's proven. I mean, just look at all those free-to-play companies, like those games that they make, like Genshin Impact, and who knows how Lost Ark will be like. They're having so much income from their games, like so much. It's like almost higher, or it is even higher on some games than if they were freaking selling the game, each game code like $50 or so, right? So it's crazy.
Everquest ran into similar problems. The subscription fee on WoW does somewhat of an incentive for this not to happen, and there are rules against multi-boxing now, so this doesn't seem like a step which would do anything significant for WoW. Next up, what is a voting Timelock progression server? This is a server where players vote on whether or not to open the next expansion. If the vote passes, the expansion unlocks. If the vote fails, it'll be held again at a later time. So in Everquest, there are around 25 expansions, I think. They did a lot of them.
Wow.
Many of their expansions, when
so many, I didn't know that.
We call an expansion in World of Warcraft are a lot smaller. In WoW, I think expansion, level cap raised. Entire new continent, new classes, new races, new dungeons, new raids, new PvP, new battlegrounds. New pretty much everything that was in the old one, but with a different lick of paint on it. This doesn't seem like something that could be overly exciting for World of Warcraft, and I feel as though things would be voted no upon again and again, and any semblance of a more hardcore crowd would just disappear over time. What's the difference between a progression server and a classic server? By most descriptions, a classic server is an attempt to recreate Everquest exactly as it was at launch by only using assets and content that was available at
And that's
launch.
what actually TBC and Wrath of the Lich King Classic are breaking, if it comes out.
Blah blah blah, Everquest,
and I'm sure it
to
will.
make it a bit different. So interesting. They have done a proper fresh before with, I guess, what we would call no changes and the lot on Everquest. I didn't expect that, to be honest. It might give you some hope if you're a fan of world buffs, as well as the longer leveling cycle and just, well, the server existing for more than 12 months, exactly as it was back in Classic in 2019. So those are some of the changes they made, but you know what else they did in the Timelock progression servers in Everquest? An in-game shop. Yep. So
yeah, they're
the
the
sub-base,
yeah.
but seeing how Blizzard were willing to throw boosts and mounts in for the launch of
Oh
TBC,
yeah, I hated that.
I'd imagine it will go this way eventually. Seemingly not this season though, but wait for the season.
It's all
where the
inspired by the
base
mobile
level
gaming
XP buff,
industry
and see if we have the
and the
XP
new free-to-play
potions
trend.
rolling in the cash shop. Now, not everything here was usable on the seasonal Everquest servers. However, things such as the XP boosting potions and bags to greatly expand your inventory space early were. Again, it is a free-to-play game though, so a shop is kind of always going to happen, but the impact it should have on the game doesn't always have to be so game breaking. Moving on, let's check out a different game a little bit. Another example of how seasons have been done differently is in old.
You know what's funny, guys? So I actually, when I see a boost token or something on WoW Retail, I'm like, whatever, doesn't matter, right? But if I see something on like our classic version of WoW, for example TBC, I'm getting a little pissed because like Retail, leveling is fast and easy, right? But on classic it takes eternity, and if you offer a boost in a game where like progression and leveling is crazy slow and it gets you to almost the highest level immediately, like people are more likely to go for that boost than they would on a game where you can level fast, right? So I would say on Retail it's less harmful to offer a boost than it is on classic. That's a fact, right?
School RuneScape, they have leagues which are much shorter and only a couple of times per year, usually lasting around 2-month duration, where players are given a special number of worlds, which is what they call servers over there,
Not
where
bad.
they have a goal or objective to take part in. A key feature of leagues is they are locked to certain portions of the game world,
Wow.
meaning the meta as for best training. Skilling methods, gearing options become wildly different than they would be with full access to the entire map. It's like a reset button on the known meta and shakes things up for a period of time.
But it's also annoying after a while because you always need to grind.
Progression. As you level
But
up,
it keeps you
can choose to
engaged
unlock
more.
new areas or special bonuses to improve your performance in the areas of content you want to engage with.
Look at the
Leagues also have
graphics, holy
large
shit.
XP
I think I
increases
couldn't play
and
this.
some restrictions on trading in certain cases. And I've heard something somewhat like this discussed for World of Warcraft. Imagine a season where the endgame was not raiding, but players were capped at certain levels, or maybe even some zones or dungeons were not available on launch. So instead of the Zerg to endgame gearing and most of the stuff in the middle and early of the game being kind of irrelevant,
Not sure if the player base
it could
will
be
like that
different
though.
stages where your base is from dungeons or obscure quests instead. This would also fit in with a slower leveling pace as well, in my opinion. Or maybe this kind of idea doesn't fit too well with Classic's raiding progression format, because if we did this, imagine 6 months down the line, we finally open the endgame dungeons like Scholarmance and Strat and all those, and then we also have all of the raid tiers to go through as well. It might be a bit of at odds with each other, unless they just make there be a lot more.
It will feel stressful, I
trying
think.
to speed up that progression.
You don't want to
instead.
feel stressed
Either way,
playing
with
a
the
game,
changes
right?
So far,
You play
I'd
games
say
to
Season
relax.
Mastery has a decent amount different, and whether you're here for the pre or post level 60 content, it seems like a pretty good go at a seasonal server for Classic. And what we usually see with seasonal servers is things keep getting more and more out there creatively the longer that they go on. So who knows what kind of stuff Blizzard will come up with for the future. Maybe they'll send out some more of those surveys and we can have a bit of a rough idea in advance based off of that. That is about
I hope
everything.
we
If
as
you're
players
enjoying
can
the season,
decide a
if
bit
you are
as
giving
well
it a
on
go,
that.
let me know your thoughts and whether you've tried seasonal servers on any other MMOs and how they've been for you. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I shall see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you Willie for making this video. Like we got like tons of information from that, and it's actually interesting. And when you look at like freaking other MMOs that do like those classic servers and what they're doing with the seasons, like I don't know how I should feel about the phases, to be honest. Like it is a bit annoying, to be honest, because if you have like one phase and you're at the end of it, like you have to wait each time for several months to go to the other phase. And if you give like a, let's say, a bigger portion of everything at once, you can like be longer hyped about it. Because what if people like play for several months, then they reach the goal, then they quit, and then they have to wait for several months for a new piece of the cake to be represented, to be given to the players, right? So I don't know how I feel about that with the phases. I didn't know it was like that until I just saw this video. Like, I really wanted to get into like, I want to make like a new character actually on Season of Mastery. I thought about like maybe going even for like even Forsaken. Like, I thought about like maybe leveling a Forsaken warrior. I want to like play a warrior on Season of Mastery, but I don't know if I'm gonna grind a character anytime soon there, to be honest. like the issue is with classic servers, like I mentioned earlier. If you as a company you go and release like a certain portion of a classic era like we have in WoW with like WoW Classic Normal, WoW TBC Classic. If they're gonna release a WoW Wrath of the Lich King Classic, it's gonna be the same. You're gonna move your player base into like a portion of them into one classic version of your game, and then like 1-2 years later there's a new one. Then they're just gonna completely leave their old classic server, go to the next one. And after that, after several months or maybe a year, there's another one. You can't just move your characters. For example, you can't move your TBC character back to Season of Mastery. Once you're in TBC Classic, you can't go back. If you have a Blood Elf, it wouldn't even work out anyway, right? For example. And dividing your community into like bubbles, I'm not sure if that is really healthy for a game. What I wish Blizzard would do with World of Warcraft, and that's like my honest opinion how I feel about World of Warcraft as a whole, they need to figure out how to scale retail better. Like we have time walking on retail and it's nice and all, right? But time walking is like restricted. You have like this week you can go there, then you can go there. And if you do regular time walking while leveling, once you're over level 50, you're screwed anyway. And you can't even talk to freaking Chromie anymore and go into a time walking. And I don't know why they made it like that, because they probably want people to just stay in the latest expansion and just play there. But why can't we have like a somewhat classic experience in WoW retail? I think that would be so much better. Like you could add like something. You know how you can like pick like dungeon difficulty, like heroic, mythic and stuff? Why don't we have an option when we form a group or with our character to have the option not just mythic and heroic but scaled? And scaled will look at your item level or so and automatically give you something that's on a difficulty that fits your level, right? Like I wish there was something like scaling. So or like let's say there's like mythic, right? Let's say mythic Nighthold, for example, like the old school raid Nighthold. How about we have a mythic scaled Nighthold, and once you like level 60, you can do this. You unlock this option, and then you can go and raid it like it's one of those raids you did back in the day with the same kind of difficulty, because shit will scale with you, right? I think that would be nice. Then you really need to introduce this into WoW retail, because then you don't need to have all those freaking classic servers. I don't know how I should feel about that. Like I was like hyped and annoyed at the same time when Season of Mastery launched, because I was hyped because I know, oh, there's like something I can do now. I have like a goal. I can re-level a new character and do the raids again and stuff like that, get the old school vibes. But then I was like, this will probably just last like a year and then everyone will quit again and stuff, just like with TBC, and my guilds become empty with only 4 or 5 players online at a time, and we can't form groups, we can't do anything. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a temporary hype, and even after those phases, I'm not sure if it can last. I mean, just look at freaking TBC now, how like the numbers are falling. Now more and more players are coming back to retail, so yeah, let's see about that. So what do you guys think about Season of Mastery? How is your first experience of that in those weeks that you have been playing? Have you reached your goals yet, and what will you do after you have reached your goals? Yeah, I'm actually curious, what will you do after you have reached your goals? You got full gear, you have beaten everything. Will you still come back to Season of Mastery, or will you just wait for a new classic to be released? Let me know in the comment section, and please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and to like this video if you like this one. I would really appreciate that, and I will see you guys next time.